Hello everybody, welcome to the Traveling in a New Vegan World Online Summit 2022. I am very excited to be here with Kim Giovacco from Veg Jaunts and Journeys. And we are here today to be talking about the advantages and disadvantages of group and independent travel. Thank you everybody for joining us today, and before we get started, I just want to do a little bit of housekeeping. First of all, I want to invite you to please ask questions in the live chat. You'll find it on the right-hand side of the video there, and we are going to be in the chat to be able to respond to any questions or comments or stories or anecdotes that you might like to share and your experiences. And there's also a comment feature as well, and Kim and I will try and come back to these comments within a few days of the summit to answer any questions that you might have. Just so that you know, this talk will be available within 24 hours of the talk actually being aired from going live, and the talk will be available for you until the end of the summit and an extra 5 days on top of that. So this talk will actually be available until about the 5th of February. So you can let your friends know, you can get them to register, and they will be able to access these talks even if they don't see it live. I just want to thank the summit's sponsors. A group of companies have worked really hard to bring this summit together. We've got Veg Voyages, Margie Travels, Vegan Vacations, World Vegan Travel, Green Earth Travel, and Tieno Tours. And you're going to be able to download the slideshow from this presentation so that you can keep the notes and you don't have to worry about taking any notes from there. And yeah, with all of that out of the way, I want to introduce you to Kim, and Kim is going to start us off today. Just one moment while I share the screen. Hi, Kim.
Hi, Brady. Great to see you.
It's lovely to see you. Thank you so much for being part of this. Now, just before I get started, I just wanted to remind people that they can sign up for a freebie from you. You've got some travel tips to share in this here, right?
Right. Yep. 100 tips for vegan travel.
Fantastic. So if you click the URL in the description of this talk, you can get this freebie. Right, Kim, is that correct?
Exactly.
Fantastic. Okay, all right, let's see if I can work this presentation. Okay, so maybe we should talk about the goals for this session. Do you like to start?
Sure. So we would like to make sure that our participants understand what group travel actually means and tell them about the pros and cons of group travel, and yeah, just let them know whether group travel is for them, or if it might be their worst nightmare. So I'm Kim from Veg Jaunts and Journeys. I've had the travel bug since I was about 6 years old. So I studied geography at university and then worked for some travel related companies. Then I spent 18 years working for the government of Singapore, where a lot of my job entailed making travel arrangements for Singapore's high-level government officials, a lot of detail work. and then personally, I've traveled to about 40 countries on my own, or with small groups of friends where I did all the organizing. I actually had never been on a group tour until I started my company because I thought, well, I was vegetarian then, and I, didn't really want to join a mainstream tour where my food choices were going to be very limited, or where I might have seen animals being exploited. So that's why I just decided to start my own company. And we do small group tours, normally no more than 12 people in Europe, and also whole food, plant-based, no oil tours in the US.
Can I ask you, Kim, what do you have coming up in 2022?
Starting off with Portugal in April, and Charleston, South Carolina, and Savannah, Georgia in the US. That one is sold out actually. Have another whole food plant-based no oil tour to Asheville, North Carolina in June. Uh, Tuscany, Italy later in the year. Whole food plant-based tour to Maine in the fall. That one also sold out very quickly. Prague and Budapest later in the fall, and Iceland in November.
Mm. Wow, it sounds like these no oil tours are really popular. I'm really excited for you. We often get people inquiring about our tours and asking if they can come on our tours and eat oil free. And I have to tell them for a country like France, for example, you're probably not going to enjoy the cuisine as you might like. And while we can ask the chef to cook you something special, it's not going to be super French food. But of course, I guess when the whole tour is no oil, you can have a particular chef who knows how to do this and can create these amazing meals. Is that a fair comment?
Yes, we're actually going to bring a chef, and instead of staying in a hotel, we're staying in a large house in each of these locations, and all the meals will be cooked at the house. So the tour is actually appealing to some people that might not eat that way at home, but they like the idea of not eating out 3 times a day. And also for people that are interested in learning this way of cooking, our chef is really happy to teach people, and we've tried to leave some time each day for instruction.
Fantastic. Okay, well, anyone listening, that sounds interesting to you, make sure you check out Veg Jaunts and Journeys. All right, anything else you want to say to introduce yourself, Kim?
No, that's it for now. Thanks.
Awesome. Okay, so I'm Bridie Reed from World Vegan Travel. I'm one of the co-founders of World Vegan Travel, and just like Kim, I also studied geography at university, and I'm an avid traveler. I've always been interested in travel ever since my mum told me about some really adventurous travels that she did throughout Russia and Eastern Europe in the 1960s. It just really captured my imagination. And I've lived in more than 10 countries around the world: Morocco, France, Vietnam, Thailand, Indonesia, many countries. And I've done lots of solo travel. I've done lots of travel with friends and travel with my partner. And in the early 2000s, in the first half of the 2000s, I actually worked as a small group tours leader for 5 years with Intrepid. I think many people that are familiar with group travel, they've probably heard of Intrepid. They specialize in cultural tours. I wasn't vegan back then, I was vegetarian. And I worked throughout Southeast Asia, though that's not entirely accurate, because I also did a season in France, and I also did a year in Morocco too. Then I decided it was time to settle down a little bit, and I worked as an elementary school teacher for many years, and I quit that nearly a couple of years ago now to work with World Vegan Travel with my partner, and we run luxury vegan group tours to some really incredible destinations around the world. And this year we are going to Italy and Rwanda and Cape Town and Botswana. So yeah, it's really cool. Okay. Alrighty. Would you like to take this slide?
Sure. So group travel means a multi-day tour. I would say probably the minimum would be about 5 days, but it could be up to 10 days or so, or even longer, maybe 2 weeks. And it includes the group includes a tour guide or a tour leader to keep everyone on track. So lots of times there might be a leader from the US and then another local leader once you get to the destination. And that could be the same person every day, or it could vary depending on which city or area that you're in. And sometimes the groups are already put together, so they could be based on hobbies or a church group or work people if it's some kind of an incentive trip. Or they can all be strangers when they start out on the trip and often end up as really good friends by the end of the tour. And usually, well, local transportation within the country would be included, as well as accommodation. And then for meals and activities, it varies. Sometimes every single item is included. Other times there's, maybe just 2 meals a day that are included, and some of the activities might be optional. So it can be pretty flexible.
Yes, I've really noticed that it just depends on the company's approach and philosophy. Sometimes they'll include everything, sometimes there'll be more free time. It just sort of depends. So I guess travelers need to choose what's right for them. Yeah. Okay. All right. Oh, I love the background there, Kim. This is your photo, homemade vegan with love. I love it. So we're going to start this presentation off by talking about the pros of group travel. And I think you probably should say something about this photo, Kim.
This was in Berlin, December 2019. We went to check out the Christmas markets, and this is one of my favorite restaurants in Berlin. The woman that owns it is from, I think, Sardinia, and her husband is African, although I cannot remember exactly which African country. So yeah, just the food is just terrific, very interesting, and it's like eating in their home kitchen. And actually when you walk into the restaurant, it's really set up like a living room. A lot of the seating is kind of armchairs and sofas and coffee tables versus regular tables. So yeah, just a terrific place.
I love it. And yeah, just looking at this picture, it just encapsulates a lot of the really positive things about group travel. Lots of people, lots of different people from different places and different ages, just having fun together and smiling and having fun. Awesome.
Yeah, I should mention it's called Afaya Cafe.
Oh, sorry. Why am I going? There we go. Afaya Cafe. Okay, great. All right. Okay, so one of the pros of group travel compared with solo travel or independent travel is there can be a lot of power in numbers. And what does that mean? Well, when you want to do something when you're traveling, it's hard to ask for something special if there's only just one of you or two of you or four of you doing this event, this activity, this thing. And it can be very hard to get a hotel, for example, to accommodate you. If as a vegan, if you're the only one, and when you are going with a group, and I'm sure you've experienced this too, Kim, when you're staying in a non-vegan hotel, you're able to make certain requests because you've got 12 people, 15 people, 20 people coming. And this is one of the really, really positive things, and the tour operator has the leverage, I guess, to get more things done for them, which is really cool. And the photo that I've chosen to illustrate this is a perfect example of this. So this is actually the Dian Fossey Center in Rwanda. Dian Fossey, of course, did some incredible things to help mountain gorillas when she was alive, before she was murdered. And anyone can go and visit this center, and it's free, I think, and you can enjoy the exhibits. But what we're actually doing here is a behind the scenes tours, where, because we were able to pay the lump sum of money and then divide that between all of the members of the group as part of the trip, we were able to have not only a behind the scenes tour, where this was actually behind the scenes tour with Veronica, who is actually one of the scientists. So, I mean, imagine that, having a 2-hour talk with a gorilla researcher in order to be able to learn more about the work that they're doing. And in this particular photo, we are learning about the center that Ellen DeGeneres is creating, and we are getting to see all of the techniques that they use to learn about the researchers. I mean, it was just absolutely memorable. And you know, in order to do this by yourself, it costs like $1,000. So most people wouldn't do it. But when you can divide it between a number of people, then the cost is much, much less. Do you have anything you want to add?
Yeah, Bridie, I think sometimes too, just getting to these special places, you know, could be expensive transportation wise, or just difficult to reach and complicated. So, you know, same thing, the tour operator would organize the transportation, and basically the costs are shared, especially, you know, if many places are located outside of cities. So
absolutely, unless you can drive, there's just no way to get to these places. Yeah.
This was our group in Edinburgh, Scotland, in 2019. And it just turned out that our guide there at the castle was vegan. That was just a surprise. He looked at our group and he saw a few vegan t-shirts. He's like, "Is this a completely vegan group?" And we said, "Yes." So what were the chances? So we often have travelers on our tours who don't know any other vegans where they live, or who don't have any vegan friends. And so group tours are just such a great way for them to connect with other vegans, to make new friends, to be with like-minded people, and especially for people that are new vegans, to learn about resources and knowledge about veganism. And you know, generally when we're eating, people are talking about what kind of vegan food products are available where they live. And we've definitely had we have a lot of repeat travelers in our groups, and we've definitely had instances where two people became friends on a tour, and one of them signed up for another tour, and I would say, oh, so and so's coming on that tour, and then the second person would sign up for the same tour as well, just so they could reconnect with the friend that they met previously. And it always makes me happy too when I see that long after the tour they're still interacting on Facebook and over social media.
Yes, I absolutely agree. It's been so lovely to see the reunions that happen after the tour has ended. You know, if somebody happens to be going to Seattle, where for business, they'll definitely try to catch up with one of their travel mates from the tour that they went on. And yeah, seeing them interact on Facebook is just really nice. And yeah, we have had some people on our tours where, like you say, they don't know any other vegans, and they feel like so validated and spoilt isn't quite the right word, because it's not being spoiled to be with like-minded people, but it just feels so special and so unique to be with people on a vegan tour. And it can be for anything, any type of niche travel, whether you're on a bird watching tour or art history tour. There's something about traveling with like-minded people.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
just not being the odd one out, going to a restaurant and feeling funny about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Shall I move on to the next slide, Kim?
Sure.
Wrong one. Okay. So another pro, I think, for most people is that somebody does all of the organizing for you. So there's somebody telling you that you need to be ready at 9 o'clock, ready to go. There's somebody that's booked the hotels. There's somebody who is making sure that you are there. Basically, you're just along for the ride. And this is really, really nice, because if you're traveling by yourself, you can often really experience decision fatigue, because and we make so many decisions in our regular daily life when we're having to work, and especially if we have a stressful job, for example. And how lovely is it that somebody's basically making all of those annoying decisions that take up a lot of our mental space to do it. So for example, this here is me and Colleen, and we're on the top of our terrace overlooking, behind the photographer is the Duomo in Florence, and we've just had our group meeting where we're basically going through what people can expect for the next few days, and a little goodie bag there, and explaining what will happen, and what will help the trip be successful, and allowing people the space to share any concerns or worries that they have, over, of course, some snacks and Aperol spritz. So that I think this is a lot of reason why people like going on group tours and keep on coming back to doing group tours, because it's just so nice not to do the organizing. You just pay for the tour as long as you're in the meeting spot, and you follow the instructions on the arrival information. You don't have to do anything else. Anything you want to add there, Kim?
Nope, complete agreement. So yeah, you don't need to really make any decisions, except for what you might do during your free time. So this is the vegan cheese selection at Vegans, which is a small chain of vegan grocery stores in Germany. And so in some cities, I don't know if our participants know that there are definitely some cities in Europe that are super vegan friendly, that just have upwards of 50, 60 vegan restaurants to choose from. And it can be overwhelming deciding where to go. It's really time consuming to find the vegan restaurants that are near the attractions that you're going to be at, because a lot of times the vegan restaurants are not near the main tourist attractions. They're usually in outlying areas. So then you'd have to think about how you're going to get there if it's not really within walking distance of where you're staying. And so on a tour, you just can trust that the tour organizer has chosen the best restaurant for the group, and you just need to turn up in the hotel lobby and be escorted there.
I love how you've used this picture to illustrate this point, because yeah, total decision fatigue there. What on earth do you do? What on earth do you do when you have all of this choice? And it's the decisions like, where am I going to go to dinner as well, but it's also the decisions of like how to make a good itinerary as well. And this can be challenging because we only have a week or 10 days holiday, and we want to see and do as much as possible, yet deciding what are good things to include and what things are not worth including, or you're not going to include on this trip, can be agonizing. And if you're prepared to put that decision onto the person that's creating the itinerary, it just means that you can be just like, okay, they're probably going to choose something pretty good. I'm just going to go with the flow. Okay, so this is a rather strange picture, and but I decided to include it because the story that comes along with it sort of illustrates my point. So group travel can be really good for first-time travelers, people that haven't traveled very much. And the first time I traveled to Thailand, which was my first time going to a place outside of my comfort zone, was not with a group tour, I will say. And I was quite young. I was, I think, 24, and I had lived in France by that time. I'd lived and traveled quite a lot for my age, I guess, at that time. But I hadn't been to a place like Thailand, something that at the time felt really, really different. And this is just a scanned picture of my photo album. I'm from 2002, I think this was. And this is basically, I turned up in Thailand, and for some reason, I don't know what it was, I was just really anxious. I turned up in the middle of the night because I got a cheap flight, and I for some reason I was really nervous to take a taxi. I had it in my mind that I should wait for the public bus. I don't know why. And I had booked 1 night's of accommodation. I mean, things were different back then than they are now in terms of how you can organize your itinerary. Back then, you had a Lonely Planet, and you just sort of plan based on that, whereas now, of course, you can book so many more things online. But I booked my 1 night accommodation in a 3-star hotel, I think it was, and for my budget it was quite expensive. And I finally got to the hotel after waiting about 3 hours for the bus. It was really silly. I got there, I dragged my luggage from the bus stop to the hotel, and it was a very nice hotel, no problem with it all. And I went out by myself to walk around. It was hot, it was sticky, it was noisy. It was so different for me that I basically scuttled back into the hotel and didn't really go anywhere for the rest of the night. And I will tell you, for that first week or so, until I found my feet, it was quite overwhelming. And I wish that I had gone on a group tour for that first trip, because I would not have felt that way, I think. And I was lucky. It was a 4-week, 5-week trip, so it didn't matter so much that I was feeling a little bit overwhelmed because I still had plenty of time to enjoy the holiday. But I really did struggle those first few days because I was suffering from culture shock, I think. Do you have anything to add, Kim?
Yeah, I can see how scary that must have been. I can also see why you waited for the bus, because there's definitely countries or cities where taxis are known to be a scam. So um, that's something that just takes some research before you get there. Um, yeah, or it can be scary if a bus or a train station isn't in a very good neighborhood, which happens sometimes. Um, but I haven't really had any scary stories like that, though, luckily.
Do you have a lot of first-time travelers on your trips? People that have
Oh,
never.
definitely.
Mhm.
Probably half of them have never been to Europe before.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, so it's really great to see how confident they become within just a few days.
yeah. Love it.
Sorry, my cat is standing on my notes. um, so if you're in it with a group, you can definitely have more opportunities to try more vegan food. So these two photos are Bramable's vegan donuts in Berlin, and also one of the fabulous completely vegan Vietnamese restaurants in Berlin. And you can just have the chance to try more dishes than if you're alone. And for instance, if a small group went to the donut shop, everybody could order 2 donuts. You could get all the donuts that are there and, cut them up, and everyone can try everything. So it's also fun. Like, for instance, when our group went to the little vegan grocery store, everybody then met at the cash registers with their finds, and some people said, oh, I didn't see that, where was that, I have to go back and get that. So yeah, it's a lot more fun not dining alone.
Absolutely. I agree. So another real pro of traveling on a group trip is that it's really sociable. Of course, you are spending your days with lots of other people, and some people might not think that that's a pro, but if you are somebody that likes talking with people, meeting people, connecting with other people, it's a really, really positive thing. This photo was taken on our last trip to Tuscany. This is a lovely group of people, as you can see, all ages, and this is just after lunch, looking into the countryside of Assisi. So after this, we were just about to go down and have a little tour of Assisi, but yeah, it's really sociable. You can be a bit of a social butterfly, and you can have dinner with different people each night if you want to, and learn about them. And it's really lovely. And if you're somebody that's traveling alone, or maybe with a partner, or something like that, it can be challenging to meet other people, whether it's other travelers, to meet them. It can be challenging as well, but it can also be really hard to connect with local people as well. So an example of how this can be facilitated on a group tour is that uh, you can be introduced to local guides. So for example, on this trip, there were a couple of local guides that accompanied us through several days of activities. And as a result, you were actually able to get to meet, to connect with local people in the country that you might not get the opportunity to do otherwise. Another example is of when we did this on our trips was when we were in Rwanda. We had a lunchtime in Kigali where we invited some people that were doing really amazing work to promote animal protection within Rwanda, and we invited them to lunch with us, and each person sat at a different table, and people were able to ask them questions about the work that they do, and just connect with them, and to make these connections. And it's, unless you're a particular kind of have a particular kind of personality, it can be really hard to make friends with local people and connect with local people, whereas a group tour can sometimes facilitate that. Do you have anything to add to that, Kim?
Absolutely. I think too, especially with the vegan tours, I mean, when you get to the local destination, you know that you immediately have something in common with the restaurant owners or the food tour leaders and or the shop owners. And it just, I think, gives the tour a whole kind of focus. And so I think that's been terrific. And yeah, just in the group tours, there's always somebody to do something with during the free time. And I don't know about your groups. I would say on ours, if we have a group of about 10 people, there'll usually just be one or two couples, and all the rest are solo travelers. So yeah, and I have to say, so on our tours, the dinners are usually optional. So breakfast and lunch is included, and the first welcome dinner, and then the other dinners, um, we always have the restaurants chosen and a reservation made, but people pay for that on their own, because a lot of times I have found people don't like to eat out 3 times a day. But I have to say, when somebody, so maybe there'll be one or two people that choose not to dine out, and I'll tell the rest of the group, you're free to go off on your own, even if it's a married couple. Say maybe that, I thought maybe they wanted to have their own time. No, they always stay with the group. Nobody has ever just said, oh, I'm going to go to this restaurant instead. Never. So
Yeah, it's really interesting, the camaraderie that can develop within a group, and I just absolutely love that. And we always ask people to do a little testimony or a reflection or something that they share with the group, or they share with me, or they let us know afterwards. And just people love the group that they're with, and they love connecting with people that they, maybe that are at a different age. I mean, you can see in this picture here, we really do have lots of different ages represented, and I love that there's people will talk and enjoy conversations with all sorts of people. It's great. I love it.
yeah, and the learning experiences are terrific, because I've sometimes seen on our tours that some of the older travelers might be vegan for health reasons. And then when they're sitting around the table with some younger vegans, and that might be vegan for the animals, the older travelers are very open to learning about that. So that's been really good.
Mm, awesome. Next slide, Kim. Oh,
Yeah, I just love this photo. This was in Lisbon, and the age gap between these two travelers is definitely decades, and the height difference many inches, but one supports the other. And I've seen lots of sharing happening amongst our groups. For instance, if somebody left something at home, somebody else in the group normally has something that they can loan out to someone else. And yeah, in terms of safety, I mean, if uh, if after the group dinner you wanted to partake of the nightlife or something, there's usually always somebody that will want to go with you, and you'll have somebody to walk back to the hotel with, or to share a taxi, or just somebody to have fun with.
Yeah, I agree. Uh, I'm thinking back to my Intrepid days, a long time ago now, but we had a lot of young single women joining our tours, and one of the main reasons they cited was they really wanted to travel, but they were really scared to travel on their own for very, very valid safety concerns. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily think that it's more dangerous in Thailand, for example, than it is at home. But when you are outside of your routine, and you might not necessarily know which streets are maybe questionable, and you could potentially get yourself in trouble. Whereas when you're with a large group, it's kind of pretty much impossible for that to happen. um, and you can really travel. In traveling in a group is always safer, and I think this is one instance. Whereas if you're worried about safety and it's a legitimate concern for many of us, then a group tour can be the way to go.
Yeah, I just thought of something I could add to that. On our tour to Tuscany this fall, about half of our group went to Rome on their own. I organized everything for them, but they went to Rome for about 3 or 4 nights before going to Florence. And I think it was just the second day that one of the women was there, she left her wallet somewhere, either in a restaurant or in a taxi. And so she just had no money with her, no credit cards, nothing. And she had to pay for the hotel in Rome when she was checking out. So I was already in Florence, and they let me know that that happened. And I mean, I was able to call the hotel in Rome and let them use my credit card number, because they had it on file from when I had made the room reservations for this small group. And, then the traveler was able to just send me a check when she got back to the US. But otherwise, like, she would have been really stuck. She had never been to Europe before.
Wow. Yeah. 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 You definitely don't need to carry so much cash when you're on a group tour. And yeah, I mean, I've helped my travelers out in similar situations. One of them, they damaged their camera, so I let them use mine. Or there's people will just help each other out, and whether it for all sorts of things, whether it's like first aid supplies or medication, or whatever it is. It's really nice, really nice. Shall I move to the next slide, Kim?
Sure.
Okay. I mean, whilst it depends on the tour, in terms of how much free time there is, I can say in our tours and Well Vegan Travel tours, there isn't so much free time allocated. The days are full. I wouldn't say busy, but they are full. It's just our approach to travel. But just because they're full doesn't mean that you have to do everything if you don't want to. And I know there are some people that just decide to stay back from an activity and do their own thing. I've had other travelers who have decided that they're going to skip a day of the tour because they want to go and visit a family member who happens to live in the next town over, for example. And we help them to make that happen. We are happy to explain, okay, well, we can help you get a taxi from here to the station. And then, I mean, of course, you're losing the money that activity would cost, but cost because you've already prepaid for it. But just because you have paid for it doesn't mean that you have to attend everything. So you can find that free time if you want to. And if you are somebody that really values having more free time and more independence, then maybe a different kind of tour is for you. But it's possible to have the best of both worlds. You can have the conveniences of a tour, as well as having some flexibility to do your own thing too. Do you want to add to that, Kim?
Yeah, definitely. Our tours also are pretty full. And it's easy for people to do things on their own, if they would like, on ours, because oftentimes when we're in a European city, especially, we're at the same hotel for 7 or 8 nights. So people don't have to worry about, a bus leaving at a certain time if and they're going to miss the bus if they wanted to do something on their own.
Mm.
Yeah, so there's always someone to turn to if things go wrong. This was our tour to Italy, which was Rome, Florence, and Venice a few years ago. And on the left in blue is Wendy Werneth, the nomadic vegan. She is an intrepid traveler. She's familiar with many countries, especially Italy and Portugal. And so she just has, everyday interesting insight, and she also would absolutely know what to do in an emergency. So it's just really great having someone like that on your side.
Mm. Absolutely. Somebody who can speak the language or connect you with the services that you need, or if there's a medical emergency, for example. I'm thinking about one example. I'm sure you do this too, Kim, but we all have copies of the travel insurance information, so that if something there was, heaven forbid, like some sort of accident or medical emergency, we can get that person to help as soon as possible, and we can let the travel insurance company know so that they can take over the care of those travelers as well. And it can be the same for anything. Something gets stolen, you need to make a police report. These kinds of things, it can be really nice knowing that you have somebody there to look after you if things go awry.
Yeah, and like I always have the emergency contact name and phone number for everyone in our group if something, really terrible were to happen.
Absolutely. Okay. So it's easier to control your budget, I would say, as a pro of travel. So when you pay for a tour, you're really getting, you really are paying for most of the travel services. And depending on the kind of tour, you're paying for all of the big costs, like the accommodation and the transportation, and these kinds of things, and obviously your airfare to get to the place, or transportation to the starting point. Whereas if you are, and also most of your food as well, depending on the tour. And but if you're creating your own itinerary and doing your own thing, it can be a little bit more difficult to control your budget. So, for example, if you're on a tour and it's $3,000 for 7 days, you kind of can work out what your daily budget is. And looking at the inclusions and exclusions, you can very easily figure out how much extra money you might need. So something, for example, on our tours, we do include pretty much everything, and we basically tell people you're not going to need any money at all at all unless you want to buy souvenirs. We cover the €1 to get people into the bathrooms in Italy. We cover tips, we cover laundry, all of those things. So, you don't even need to worry about having the right change for tipping, all of these things. So all of these little costs, they can add up depending on the style of travel you're doing. Of course, you are paying for them. You're paying for them through the cost of your tour, but at least there's no surprises there. So this picture here is in a vegan soup stand, I guess you would call it, in the Marché des Enfants Rouges in Paris. And yeah, I just think it's a nice picture, and we're just enjoying our time, our tour around some vegan establishments, and we stopped off here to get a cup of soup. It was a winter tour, so we needed a cup of soup to keep us going in the cold. And of course, all of that's part of your trip. You don't need to think about any of those things. Do you want to add to that, Kim?
I would say, yeah, in addition to just knowing you're not going to need to spend more money, you don't even really have to then think about how you're going to get the money, so it could be easy to get ripped off by ATM machines in Europe if you don't use the correct ones. And you don't, yeah, especially for instance, like when you said you're giving people money for tips or to use the restrooms. Yeah, you just don't have to worry about where you're going to get the coins, and they could be very hard to come by. So,
and I'm also just thinking about now the mental load with doing currency conversions.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, it's not easy in some countries.
Right? Oh dear. All right. So this picture doesn't illustrate the cons of group travel at all, because it was actually a very nice moment. But of course, they're the cons of group travel. It's not perfect in every way, and it's not for everybody. This is a picture of us in our final dinner in Vietnam, on our Vietnam trip we did in 2018, and Colleen's doing a toast reflecting on our wonderful trip together. And as you can see, we've got quite a banquet in the background there, and I will tell you that a lot of dancing happened on that lawn after dinner. It was a really, really wonderful trip. This woman here, Catherine and Linda, they've come on several of our trips before. Oh, and Linda's husband, Jason. And yeah, I mean, they must like group travel because they keep on coming back. But yeah, that's funny. There's a little pair of shoes right there. I think someone had already started dancing. Okay, now let's talk about the cons.
So yes, you could be following the tour leader's flag. We don't personally use them on our tours. They're not necessary for just 12 people or so. So you might not have as much flexibility and independence on a group tour. But on the other hand, you might be taken to places that you never would have found on your own, that were either organized by the tour operator, or you can find out about places that your fellow travelers have found on their own. And as Bridie said before, you do often have the option to skip an activity and do your own thing if you choose. But I mean, I really can't think of that many disadvantages. It's hard for me to come up with them.
Yeah, I agree. We have to sort of scrape the barrel a little bit here, but with stuff, but with disadvantages. But I'm thinking about our tours. Our tours are a bit bigger than yours, Kim, and we have had to break out something like a hand so that people can follow, in examples like the Christmas markets where it's very, very busy, or a very, very busy museum, or something like that. We need to sort of raise a hand. And if you are joining a group tour, like a bus tour, for example, where there can be 40 or 50 people in the group, then you have to, and you're in a busy place, then you need a flag or to follow, to make sure everybody's everybody's together and you don't lose anyone, definitely. And I think some people don't really like that. Sometimes it's necessary, but you can I guess some people might feel like they're being sort of pushed along from place to place. But yeah, I guess that's could be an issue for some.
I have always wanted for fun, just to get the vegan flag, like as a little pennant, you know.
That's a fun idea.
Good
I love
advertising
the idea
too.
of sharing a vegan message whilst you're in
Yeah, we don't really need
the
it, but it was
Vatican.
fun.
Okay, so I guess this sort of connects with this. Certainly, if you're going on a group tour, it does require a little bit of flexibility and being prepared to do what the majority want. And if you are somebody that does not like that, or you like to be in control and you like to do your own thing, or you want to leave at 10 o'clock because rather than 9 o'clock because you couldn't get to sleep until later on, then late that night, then this could be a challenge for you. So it does require you to be a little bit flexibility, and those people that do like to be in control of everything, all of the things that can go on, then it can be quite hard to relinquish this control to somebody else, somebody like me and Seb, the tour leaders, or for you in your case, Kim. And that could be an issue for some. Most people are happy to relinquish that control, but I guess for some it might be a challenge.
Yeah, and I think like our groups are small enough that sometimes when I got the vibe of the group after a few days, I was very easily able to change things. So Berlin, yeah, there's a lot of great food there, but a lot of it tends to be kind of vegan junk food. And the first tour that I brought there, our group was pretty small. And yeah, some of the participants were used to eating a lot healthier at home. So instead of going to the burger places at the end of, halfway through the tour, we just instead were going to more like healthy bowl places. And, they were able to say to me, we're not really feeling that great, and it was easy to make the switch. So
Exactly.
group can definitely have input at times.
Yeah, and I think that's a key thing that and it's not really a control issue, but it's just generally speaking, like if there's something that's going on that you don't like for whatever reason, you should take your tour leader aside and just let them know, like what it is that's bothering you, so that there is an opportunity to get it fixed. Because I'm for us, and I'm sure for you, Kim, our main focus is to make sure that every single person has an absolutely wonderful time, because that person has paid money for this, and it's their precious vacation. So if there's anything that we can do to help people feel good, then we want to do that. And sometimes the only way we will know is if you take the time to tell us. So yeah.
Yeah. And the traveler might not be the only one that's feeling that way. So they should definitely not be afraid to say something.
Exactly. Should we go to the next slide?
Yes. Yeah, so this is our group at the Albuquerque International Balloon Fiesta, and we departed our hotel at 3:30 in the morning in order to be there at this time. And but everyone, well, one couple decided to sit that out, and it was kind of a shame because at the balloon festival, they have organized events in the early morning and then late in the day. But sometimes the ones that are late in the day get canceled due to wind. So we were supposed to go to both events, but unfortunately, the afternoon one that we were supposed to go to was canceled. So this one couple didn't end up getting to see any balloons because they decided to sit out the early morning trip. But everyone else thought it was definitely worth it.
Right. Yeah. Definitely. If you're going to go on a tour, that there's an itinerary, and we have to catch that bus. We have to catch that plane, or we have to meet the guide, or whatever it is. And you know, Seb is always my partner. Seb is who sort of decides the itinerary. He's always much more mindful of people's desire to not leave too early, whereas I'm like, come on, it's a really good thing, we can leave at 7 o'clock for the second day in a row. And Seb will say, no, we can't, that's just not fair. But of course, inevitably, there are some times where you might need to sleep in, whether it's to get to the next town that you're going to, or whether it's to experience this unique thing requires an early morning. So yeah, if you're somebody that under any circumstances are not a morning person, then maybe group travel is not for you.
Yeah, I always do have to remind myself that many of the people on our tours are still working and this is their vacation.
Yes. Seb also reminds me of that too. And also, I think as well, like if you are somebody that likes to relax, and when I say relax, I mean like sitting on the beach, perhaps, and just sitting by the pool. If that's your idea of a holiday, and that anything sort of any activity is not part of that, then maybe a group tour isn't for you, because just by their very nature, group travel includes activities and excursions and seeing fun stuff. So yeah. All right. Okay. So this one, when you buy a group tour, you're essentially paying for someone to organize your vacation for you. And of course, that requires a cost. This is me just after our Italy trip, in the grounds of Villa Cortevago, which is this absolutely beautiful villa. And here I am hard at work doing research and thinking about the trip that we've just done, and the work that we're doing for this trip that is happening this year in June. And we take our research very, very seriously, and that often means going ahead of time to visit the place and meet with people and research and check this stuff. It also means for Seb hundreds and hundreds of hours of planning and studying and putting things together, and there are costs that time is something that is included in the cost of your vacation. So when you are paying for a group tour, you are paying for somebody to organize that vacation for you. So yeah, if that's something that annoys you, then maybe that's not, group travel isn't for you. But the investment of time that these travel professionals do, when probably the traveler is too busy to do that same level of research, that is worth it for some. Do you want to add to that, Kim?
Yeah, I can just attest to how much work it is organizing a tour. I think for our 8-night tour to Tuscany, I easily had 75 different reservations that had to be kept track of and organized. And that's really a job in itself, just having all the reservations readily available and not having to be wasting time looking things up and was this paid for already, or do I still have to pay for this on the spot? And yeah, so I think people could see how much work it is just to choose the vegan restaurants. And then if you think about how, all the other arrangements that have to be made, it's really hundreds of hours for every tour.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Some of the feedback that we get is from our travelers is I don't they understand when they're on the tour just the level of work that goes into preparing a tour, whereas they might not have realized before. When they're on the tour they realize, and of course, you know, Seb and I are very mindful about not making it look like it's an effort. We don't want people to notice that there is maybe a problem in the background, or any stress, or any anxiety. We like to try to keep that. But I think people, because vegans are generally a very empathetic, sensitive lot, they can see the level of work and effort that goes into this kind of travel, and as a result they're very appreciative and about the work that's done. I'm sure you have experienced the same kind of comments, Kim.
Yeah, and I think the best way uh, to know about that is when you have repeat travelers. You know, for me, one of the best things that happened this year was one couple was on my Tuscany tour, and while they were on the tour, they booked the tour to Scotland for this year. So
Yeah,
that just made me so happy.
yeah, yeah. It's a very nice feeling. I agree. Hmm.
Yeah, so there could be annoying fellow travelers, but I have to say I had to use a stock photo here because in our groups we've yet to have an annoying fellow traveler. And if you did, though, at least you'd have other group members to hang out with, so you could put some distance between yourself and the person who might be annoying.
Right. Yeah, that's I definitely a thing. I mean, I think out of all of the trips that we've done with World Vegan Travel, I don't think there has been a single traveler where I have thought I don't want to travel with them again. They were too much work, or too frustrating, and or whatever it was. They're just lovely, lovely people. Now, when I worked for Intrepid, that was different. There were definitely some peoples that challenged me as a tour leader, and were challenging for others as fellow travelers. Gosh, I've got some stories, but maybe that was a numbers game, because I was doing that. I was tour leading full time for 5 years, whereas we haven't done that many tours with Well Vegan Travel. But I think there's something to be said for traveling with like-minded people, that lessens the likelihood that will happen. But yeah, like you say, Kim, there's lots of other people that you can hang out with, and I think everyone's very mindful of their own behavior and the way that they project themselves to the group. And we also talk about that in the welcome meeting as well. We ask people to just think about how their behavior can impact others, and how the space can be comfortable and safe for everybody.
Yeah.
Mm. So, if you are an extreme introvert, then maybe group travel is not for you. I would definitely classify myself as an introvert, not an extreme introvert, but an introvert nonetheless. I like my alone time, and by the time I finished a group tour, I am definitely needing some quiet time. But extreme introverts might find it a little bit challenging. I've included this picture of Colleen, not because she's an extreme introvert, but just because I think it's a very beautiful picture, and she's being pensive and contemplative, looking outside over the vineyards in Italy, in Tuscany. Um, but if being with groups of people a lot is an issue for you, then maybe group travel isn't for you. We've had a couple of people that have decided to stay back on activities, not because they've been feeling unwell, not because they want to do anything else, but just because they want some really quiet time. They just want to be sitting reading a book, and they're perfectly happy to be in the cozy hotel by themselves reading a book. That's just their idea of fun. But if you're an extreme introvert, then maybe group travel isn't for you. Do you have anything to add, Kim?
No, not really. Haven't really come across anyone on our tours yet that really needing alone time. I mean, just like I mentioned, maybe if they just skip a dinner or something like that. When we have, say, an 8-day tour in a European city, or even if it's not in a city, I do always try to include at least one entire day that's free.
Mm.
So, but even then, a lot of the group will end up sticking together. So,
Nice. All right. Well, I guess that's the end of our presentation. So if you're wondering if group travel is something for you, or you have something that comes up on here, of course you can put it in the chat or in the live chat, but and you can talk with us on the chat, but you can also send us an email, or you can jump on a call with Kim or I. Maybe you have another question about whether group travel is for you. Kim and I would be very, very happy. You can contact us in the email there. And Kim and I actually recorded a podcast on this same topic a while ago. And if you're interested, you can just scan the QR code there. Yeah. Okay, let me stop sharing my screen. Okay, great. All right. Have we got
good.
anything we want to add before we finish up for today, Kim? I think we covered a lot.
I think so. Yeah.
Fantastic. All
Mm.
right. Okay. So let me get my little notes here to close us nicely. Kim, I want to thank you so much for joining us on this talk. It was really, really great. I'm really hoping that those that listened to this will have a better understanding of how group travel is. And you've got another couple of sessions on the platform that people can check out. Can you talk a little bit about those summit sessions?
Sure. I have one called Five Reasons to Visit Asheville, North Carolina, which is obviously a little bit vegan focused, and another one, How to Pack in a Carry-On Only, no matter how long your trip.
Fantastic. So you can definitely check those out by going to NVW, New Vegan World, nvw22.haysummit.com. And just a reminder that this talk and all of the talks, even if you missed them, are available for you to check out until the 5th of February. And please, please don't forget to go to the freebie offered in Kim's link there. Where you can download 100 tips for vegan travel. And I think you also have an exclusive offer as well, something about 5%.
I have,
Am I right there?
I'm not sure exactly where it's being presented, but I have basically a drawing for $250 off any tour.
Okay, now I'm remembering. So basically, anybody who registered for this talk within 24 hours of the talk happening, Kim, you will receive an email and of these winners, and I think they get a voucher for $250 off a tour
Right.
for this year, I think, or any year maybe.
Yeah, it really, I don't generally put expiration dates on my vouchers. So yeah, just $250 off any international tour.
Fantastic. Again, thank you so much, Kim.
Thank you, Bridie. It was great talking to you. And I have to say, I didn't know you had a geography degree as well.
Yeah,
Cool.
yeah. So many things in common. I love it. I love it. All right then. Bye now, Kim.
Bye.